Hey guys, this is Steven here with another video on how to play some of my favorite puzzles. This one is on Nurikabe, or Nurikabe. I'm not exactly sure how to pronounce it as I've heard it said both ways. But anyways, the grid size can be of any dimensions, and in this example we have a 9 by 13. Each cell must either be shaded in or left alone. Here we see an unfinished puzzle. This is how it would look at the start. And then here is an example of that puzzle being finished. So you can see there's either white cells or black cells. And the objective is to form islands that contain exactly one clue such that that number of squares in that island equals the clue. So here we see, for instance, a 4, and we see 4 cells. Here we see a 2, and we see only 2 cells on that island. Here's another 4 cells in that island. So that's how islands work. In addition, islands must be isolated from one another orthogonally. So they may touch diagonally. So you can see, for instance, there's 2 white cells diagonal from one another, but they're all separated orthogonally. So what I mean by that is if let's say, for instance, this cell was not shaded in, you can see that the 1 and the 2 form one single island, and so that would be incorrect. These would have to be separated because an island can't contain 2 clues, and there's 4 cells in that island right now. So this must be colored in, and when that happens, you can see now the 1 is an island isolated by any other island orthogonally, and the 2 is now an island. So that's how the islands work. As far as the dark cells, or the water or stream, whatever you want to call it, that goes between the islands, may never form an area of 2 by 2 or larger. So we call those pools. So for instance, this cell here, if this was colored dark, that would be incorrect because you can see it's now a pool instead of a stream. You can't have that, so you wouldn't be able to have this one shaded in either, right? So these would form an illegal pool. So these would be white, and now you can see the stream flows through nicely. Now the water, unlike the islands, must be all connected to one another orthogonally. So it may never be isolated. So for instance, if this cell up here was white, you can see these 2 cells are isolated from the other shaded cells, and that just wouldn't work. Even though they're adjacent to one another diagonally, it has to be up, down, left, right, or orthogonal. So that has to be colored in. So the stream or the water works in the opposite way of the islands. The numbers are always going to be considered white cells and have to be isolated from all other clues, whereas the water goes in between the islands. So that's about it as far as the rules go. What I'm going to do is show you some basic tips and tricks that I use to solve these puzzles so you could kind of see how it unravels. The first thing that I start off with are the 1s. They're the easiest. Whenever you see a 1, you can just go to all the cells that are orthogonal to it. So up, down, left, right, and you can shade those in. And you've created an island now. So that's real simple. So we'll find all the 1s and go to all the cells that are adjacent to it orthogonally and shade those in. So that's the first thing that I do. The second thing that I do is I look for all the clues that are spaced 1 cell apart, and I disconnect them, knowing that they can't touch. So for instance, this 2 and 4, you can see there's a space in between. Water has to flow through there to separate those numbers. So anytime you see a space like that, you can color that in. So here's a space again, and it could be vertically or horizontal. In that case, these are all horizontal spaces, but if they were spaced 1 apart vertically, those could also be shaded in. So that's a nice start. The next thing that I look for are clues that are diagonal from one another, and I have to split those up. So for instance, you see these 3s here. You know that this island could not go up, otherwise it'd run into this other one. and vice versa. This island here could not go down because it'd run into the other clue. So what I can do is take these two cells and split them apart, have water flow through that. So that is the first few things that I do on every puzzle. That'll give you a good start to it. The next thing that I look at is if there's any twos or any islands that have two adjacent routes available. And so what I mean by that is, here's a two where we've cut off two possible routes. This island can't go up north and it can't go over to the east because we've cut that off with water. So there's only two possible routes it can go. It can either go to the west two spots, or it could go to the south 2 spots. Either way, we're going to have water right here that's diagonal to it. And the reason for that is water surrounds all the islands. So whether I go this way or that way, this spot is going to be shaded in no matter what. And you can see that pattern now exists for this 2 as well. So we can go, whenever there's only 2 possibilities for the number 2, which is in this case west or south, you can shade in that diagonal cell. So we've solved that there. So looking pretty good so far. Now this 2, we can't use that trick because there's 3 possible routes it can go to. It can go north, it can go east, or it goes south. So same with this 2. So we can't use that trick yet for those. After I've done that, is I look for one-way escapes for islands and streams. And what I mean by that is, if you look at this 3, there's only one possible direction the island can go to. Right? It can't go north, can't go west because that's the edge of the board, can't go east, so it can only go south. Right? We look at it orthogonally. Again, we don't look at it diagonally. So in this case, it has to go south, and I indicate the cells that I know are part of an island with a dot. So I know that this island is so far going to be these 2 cells. And then it can go on one more south, or it can go over to the east. But you can see it runs into the other island here. So again, whenever you have 2 clues that are spaced apart by 1, you know in the middle has to be water. So now we go back to this 3. There's only one direction it can go into. So there's that. So we filled this island now. There's 3 cells. And so we have to isolate that island. So we make sure there's water on all sides of it. Right now we need water in this cell. And there we go. So this is now an island of 3 separated orthogonally from any other island. And then we would continue to look around, and now we see here this 2 only has one direction to go in. It's blocked to the west, north, and east, so it has to go south. And then we surround it with water. And when I mean surround it, it's again surrounding it orthogonally. We don't care about the diagonals. So there's that. Now we've solved these 2 clues. We look at this 2, same thing. It's blocked to the west, north, and east, so it only has one route to go, which is south, and we would surround that with water. So doing good. And now this one we see we can go back to one of our hints that we used earlier, where the 2 only has 2 possible routes. It can go east or it can go south, and either way this cell here is going to have to be shaded in. So there we go. That's a couple of hints. Now, those were islands that needed escape routes. But what about water? So we look at this water cell here. Remember, it has to connect with the other water cells somehow, orthogonally. So it can't go to the east, so it can't go right, and it can't go south, because those are islands it would run into. And it can't go west because we're on the edge of the board. Therefore, going north is its only possible route of escape. So we know that that's a shaded cell. Now after that, we would see this 3. The 3 could be too many directions. It could be these 3 cells. It could be these 3 cells. It could be these 3 cells. So I'm going to leave that alone for now and come back to it because I don't have enough hints to solve that. The last thing that I look for are cells that cannot be reached for an island. So what I mean by that is if we look at this corner cell in the top left, it can't be part of any island, right? If we look at the 2, the farthest that island can go is over there, right? Or it can go up here. And the 3, the farthest that island can go is up there. So no matter what, this cell cannot be reached. This cell also can't be reached. And this cell can't be reached by either the 2 or the 3. And the 4 wouldn't be able to reach there either. So there's no way any of these 3 cells can be part of an island. So again, I know that those can be shaded in. So that's some of the tips and tricks. The other thing is remember that you can't create a pool. So for instance, let's just hypothetically say that this was shaded in. In this instance, we know that this cell here would have to be part of an island, because otherwise, if it was water, it would create a pool. So those are kind of the tips and tricks that you would use to solve this puzzle. So here the 3 can either, this 3 can either go up or over, but either way, this one's always going to be shaded. And you would just use deduction and logic to work your way around. You know that this cell here can't be an island. There's no way the 4 clue can get there, or the 1 or the 2. So that has to be water. And now we're seeing that trick I showed earlier. This would be a pool if this cell was shaded, and that can't happen. That's just not allowed. So we know that that is going to be part of the island, and we can surround that island. And we have this 2 rule again. We know that this has to be shaded. We know that this cannot be shaded because it would be a pool. So that would be part of this island. And we just surround, and so forth. I'm not going to finish the puzzle just for the sake of time, but I think you guys get the point. It's a lot of fun. I definitely recommend giving it a shot. Start off with the easier ones, which are going to be the smaller ones that have more clues. But I downloaded the app from Conceptis on my iPad. Ton of fun. I've been enjoying it. And that's it for today. So if you liked what you saw here in this video, please hit that thumbs up button and subscribe for more videos like this in the future. Thanks everyone. Have a good day.